Good afternoon, everybody out there. Good afternoon. Wow, what a nightmare. Well, as you guys know, there's some bad weather fronts happening, forming. Listen, I have to tell you this. How many people live in Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky, the places where these the floodwaters are? Because right now I'm on the East Coast, right? And it's about to... So this whole place is not good. The whole place is not good. It's just not good. There's been I estimate about 4 inches in the last 2 hours, and it's still going. So we're going to end up with some water, a lot of water. But it's overwhelmed just about everything. Roads are impassable in a lot of these places. It just looks like it really looks like a lake, where it shouldn't. The bad part is, those on the East Coast who are in these places are not used to floods. They're just not used to floods. And so, but it's going to cost people everything. A lot of people everything. This is only the beginning. I'm right in the middle of ground zero. Of course, you guys know I have a lot of stuff right there, ground zero. And, hey, we put up a good fight. But due to these weather changes and patterns, we're going to have to do something very different. I'm going to have to shift everything into a different type elevation here. That's a must. But, Lord willing, I'll do it. There are this same thing. I want you guys to look good, man. I need you guys to really understand what's happening with the weather. Really. And this is not hype. This is not any of that. You guys know it only takes one weather-related catastrophe to take everything away from someone, right? Everything away from someone. This phenomena, these patterns, they're spreading. They're not weakening, they're spreading. Soon, there will not be a place you can put your foot that has no water. Now, I know you guys have heard me say that a long time, right? That I've been giving that warning for at least 30 years of my life. There will come a time where you will not be able to step on dry ground. Everything is going to be mushy. So even though it's bad, this is bad. For a lot of people, it does give you critical insights into what you need to change. It really does. Having said that, there will be... I'm back here. Okay, guys. Having said that, I know COT is going to have to make some changes for one of the main stations. We do that for security, but I'm going to have to move the whole place. In other words, this where we're on right now is going to have to be left for something else. This stuff can't stay here. So that's going to be my task this year. But a lot of people are going to have to end up doing the same thing. If you operate something with critical infrastructure, right? If you have something critical, you're going to have to really survey your surroundings and make a choice, because this water phenomena, everything is changing. The equatorial influences that we've been having around the earth, they are shifting fast, incredibly fast, right? I've been watching the influence as far as the Midwest and parts of Russia. I did not, what no one saw coming was these sudden shifts, right? There's sudden shifts that take place. The equator is still going to move, and that's unfortunate. Listen, I'll put it this way. There's going to be a time you guys will see the moon rise 3 times in one night. You watch and see. Now, that sounds nuts, doesn't it? You're going to see it rise 3 times in one night. Now, you may not feel the full influence here on the surface of the Earth, but that will mean the Earth is not in the orbit it used to be in. We're going to have some shakers. In other words, it'll be as though something took hold of the Earth and removed it out of its stable orbit. That's what's going to happen. We're going to have some major gravitational shifts within the planet itself. And the weather phenomena is just going to surprise everybody. It will. Now, it also means you don't have to break down, listen, because, even right now, the situation is horrible. It is. But I'm very thankful. I am. You know why? Things could always be worse. They could always be worse. Never forget that. Even when you're at ground zero, Jimmy cracked corn, things can always be worse. You handle things as they come, but I'll tell you something. This is how you know things are purposed. This is how you know. Do you really think if the Lord would want any of his children in a place that's about to bite the bullet, right? In a place that really can't support what they're doing? No. The Lord wants his children in places of areas of safety, but we have to learn to listen. You don't break down when a catastrophe comes. That's not what you do. You say, okay, Lord, what do you need? What do you need me to do? That's what you do. You don't say, oh, the devil got me and this, that, and the other. You don't do that. You just simply ask the Lord, what are you speaking to me about? And then take notice. Take notice. And when you start taking notice, you're going to see things you didn't see before. In fact, I'll tell you something. There are solutions to problems, but you'll only see that solution in the middle of a crisis. You'll never see it without the crisis. You'll never see what needs to be changed until the crisis comes. You'll never see it. So keep your wits about you. In when these things take place, don't have a, breakdown. There are going to be some shufflings here and there. Just as the rain, deer, they're out walking and grazing, all of a sudden rain comes. They don't have predefined houses and shelters. So what do? They wait it out. They're built for that. Well, guess what? You're built for it too. You're built for it. All you have to do is take notice of what's happening, right? And then refine what you're doing. I think it's a good thing because those who don't go through anything, they have no idea what to prepare for. There are people running around in America right now, and because they're not affected by any of these things happening, they say, oh, nothing's coming. Those will be the very ones who will demand help from everybody. There's a place near where I am. Last year I petitioned that 3 counties be evacuated. I did. They thought it was crazy until they looked at the source. When they saw some of the sources, they took it under consideration but said, we can't do it. We can't do that. It's too expensive. And, nobody said, well, divert some state funding. You're going to have to do something because if a flood comes, these people are going to be cut off. Right? So notices were sent out to those areas. Notices. Some people relocated. All right, I'm back again. Don't worry about that. We got it. But the Lord is always speaking. He is always speaking. We'll pay us to listen. Now that means with the weather phenomenon, this is what I want to talk to you guys about. What to expect. I was going to do it anyway, but I might as well do it now. I know it's the middle of a storm here, and it's some heavy rain that's battering all these places. It is. I took some pictures. It looks like a lake right in front of where I am. Anyway, I'm going to talk to you guys about some of these weather shifts, right? The entirety of the U.S. is looking at these. They're going to be prone to these weather shifts. Everybody. Now, I'm in America. Right now, I'm in America. But you're talking about, imagine Mexico underwater. You think they're ready for that? Anybody, you think they're ready to be underwater? You think they're ready to be inundated with massive floods? You think they're ready for that? Do you know what's at the equator? Do you know how high the brim, the earth is not round because of the water, right? Think of this. It's not round because of the water. The water at the brim of the earth, right? Its peak line of rotation, right there and its circumference around the earth. The water goes up about 300 feet because of the rotation of the earth. Do you know what happens when the shift of the earth, when the earth begins to reorientate itself to a different influence of rotation? Do you know what happens? That 300 Oh, I'm sorry. It's not 300 feet. I'm sorry. You're not going to believe how big that is. In fact, I'll let you guys find it. I'm looking at it right now, but it's so unbelievable. So I want you guys to do me a favor real quick. I want you to find it. Look up this. I'm going to give you the words to say. Look up water height at the equator. Look it up. Water height at the equator. Then I want you to look up how many miles the water is up that high. Then you'll see the volume of water I'm talking about. Because the equator, being at the rim of the earth, right, is not 2 inches wide. It's not some paper-thin wall of water. No. You're looking at an incline, right? An incline of water that spans miles. The elevation of that water is up. Say it was up 100 feet, just 100 feet. But it inclined 100 feet over 28 miles. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of water. That's a whole lot of water. Somebody looked it up. It is an unbelievable. The amount of water that is at the equator is not, it's something that you wouldn't believe. It does no good for anybody to tell you, right? Now, when they pull the height data from the equator, that really told the story. The modeling for the equator somewhat flabbergasted people due to the height of the water at the equator, right? Somebody looked it up at just 13 miles. Somebody just saw the number. Somebody saw the number 13 miles anyway. Now, listen to me closely. When the earth, with the influential axis of the earth changes, right? Changes. All that water is going to shift. That means the rim of the water is going to shift. It's not going to be at the equator. It's not. Now that means it's on the move, but it won't be at the equator. Do you think anybody is going to have a dry place to put their feet? No. It'll take 2.5 months for the water to settle. Because as it shifts, you're looking at land masses reorienting. They're going to reorientate themselves. Geologic mass is going to shift. Certain crevices will open up, others will shut. You're looking at a makeover of all continents. We're not talking about the end of the earth. That's not what we're talking about. I'm telling you, the water's going to rise and you will not hear it. When that shift takes place in this influence, it's already on the move. This influence comes. You may be having a barbecue 1 hour. In the next hour, it could literally be 10 feet of water all the way around you. Now you're starting to see? That means all coastal places are not going to be the right place to be. That means you take all maps and throw them out the window. All of them. Even the Navy's map. Throw it out the window. That map only works if things are settled. It does not work when things are shifting. It only works when things are settled. It will not work when things are shifting. You can't plan a safe place to go because the land masses are also going to shift. This is what we're looking at. Now, is all this going to happen at one time? No, it is not, and that is the problem. It is not going to all happen at one time. It's slowly starting right now. People are not going to be properly prepared. The weather is a telltale event. All weather is. Of the warmth of the temperatures of the water, the type of water that's being, the currents are changing, right? All this water that's being tossed up in the atmosphere, it's happening for a reason. You're looking at massive pressure changes in the atmosphere. If you have that volume of water shifting, the pressure of the atmosphere over certain continents is going to change. This will affect weather in a huge way. That's precisely what we're seeing. You're seeing melting at the North Pole. Melting. You're seeing melting at the South Pole. It's being offset now. This is what you're seeing. It is shifting. It's not like you're going to go outside and say, yep, I can tell it's shifting, and that's not what's going to happen. But then when you see every bird fly until it dies, there's going to be a problem. So I'll say it again. There will not be a place on this earth you'll be able to step that will not have water. It won't. And do you know what happens after the settlement? Maybe you don't know this. There's a type of suction event that will take place. That's going to cause it not to rain for at least 20 years. No rain for 20 years. At least 20 years. Now, we don't know if things are going to go on that long. But while the atmosphere is changing, you're going to have these vortices of suction that's not going to allow it to rain. It won't allow a cumulonimbus cloud to form. It won't allow stratus clouds to form normally. It'll tear up the ice crystals and everything else. It'll almost bind water to the surface of the earth. So it's going to take a while before it settles. Does that mean everybody's going to be underwater for all those years? No. Because the water will overtake things, and we're starting to see that now. We're starting to see it now. But then when it settles, I'll say it again. There's going to be no rain. Now listen, this is what you're not counting on. This is why your communication with the Lord is so imperative. You do realize what happens when the water shifts. Animals also shift. When the animals shift, when the insects shift, crops change. Crops are going to die. Crops are not going to make it. What do you think humanity is going to do with no food? You're going to have your money. You're not going to care about money. You won't. This is what's coming. You may say to yourself, well, what if it doesn't come in my lifetime? Yeah, you're seeing it already. You're going to see quite a bit of it. Because the truth is, we don't know. Nobody knows just how fast this process can overtake things. We don't know. But it is worth understanding it. And should you not live through it, it is good to pass that knowledge on to your children. And forget about this scientific fact stuff. You get the facts as best you can. But I'll tell you something. People are going to fight the facts for as long as they live because they don't like things like this do not make money. Period. They're not going to tell anybody about potential disasters. They won't. Keep that in mind. Now, with all that out, say that's, that's out of the question right now, Mike. You're going to have to deal with the weather anyway. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have to deal with the weather. And we're going to talk about that weather as soon as I come back right here in a few moments. But we have another round coming in, those on the East Coast. We do. Now, you know what, guys, in the middle of winter, right? We're not supposed to have heavy clouds like this. You know that, don't you? You remember that term last night? Heavy cloud. Atmospheric changes are such that an average thunderstorm is going to bring possibly 10 inches of rain. 10 inches of rain. That means if a person has a simple thunderstorm come through, right? A simple thunderstorm comes through. This summer, that simple thunderstorm that will last maybe an hour is going to drop 4 to 5 inches of rain. 4 to 5. Where's HARP? Oh, where's HARP at? You're not going to hear about HARP. President Trump is in office, right? You're not going to hear about HARP. What about the HARP array? You're not going to hear about the HARP array. You're not. Some of that stuff has been decommissioned a long time ago. You know that, don't you? Many of those nodes They won't operate over certain parts of the world, and they never have. Trump is putting together a special set of people to divulge such things, to educate all people. And when they find out the truth about all this stuff, they're going to scratch their heads. I think it's going to help because when the Lord is doing something, people will stop confusing that with man-made stuff. Can men alter the weather? Of course they can. So can you. Any one of you can do that. Go into the grocery store, get a couple of items, boil some liquids on the stove, extract certain minerals, load them up, shoot them up in the atmosphere, and wait and see what happens. Rain, right? You can do that yourself. But these large fronts, controlled by a jet stream that's out of control, that's soon to reverse, unsuccessful. The influences are far too great. Far too great. Yeah, cloud seeding, they do that all the time. All the time. They do it all the time. And why would they do cloud seeding? For crops, for this and the other, but guess what? Once you stimulate that, you burn out. You burn up the fuel in the clouds so quick. They found that out too. So because it's not natural, you burn the cloud out, essentially. You know that, don't you? You just burn it out. They do that to hurricanes to offset the center to save people. You know that? They do that a lot. But cloud seeding burns up the fuel in the sky. What does the Bible say about these storms? Why did several prophets say that the Lord would send them? That's right. Somebody said it disrupts a hole in the system. That's right. They do that to offset, to save lives. And you know what? To be honest, sometimes it works, and sometimes the storm is so powerful. It's like dropping a drop of water in the ocean. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. It depends on the forces acting upon that hurricane or vortex, because sometimes it's very ineffective. They tried with Hurricane Katrina, and Hurricane Katrina was just too powerful. Too powerful. So that's the way that works. And all that stuff began in World War II. So yeah, you can cause a storm, but you're going to burn it out. You're going to burn out the source. That's not what you're seeing here. You're seeing a sustained conveyor belt, dropping water all over the place. So essentially, what you see happening is a frontal system, a low pressure system that has the ability to pick up water, moisture from the ocean, pull it 2,000 miles inland and drop it all over the place, and do that continuously. A sustained conveyor belt. That's what they're calling an atmospheric river. That's the only thing they know to call it, because that's precisely what's happening. It's transporting water vapor, concentrating it, and then dropping it over your heads. There was a time when the average cloud weighed so many hundreds of tons, right? That the number's off the scale now. Somebody said, Mike, will you tell them how the weather has become an enemy? It is the enemy of mankind, because it's ruining everything they set out to do. Ruining. It has ruined critical military-based structures. It has messed up certain security protocols. It messes up critical infrastructure that we have, missile defense systems. It's messed up quite a few things. It has delayed things. It has taken out communications when we really needed those communications. It's messed up our enemy just the same. It's cost us a lot of resources to distribute to the people to get their things back in order. This flood that we're having right now, that is probably one of the only times you hear the name West Virginia in the news, right? You're going to see people with lots of losses. Here's the bad part. This is a baby storm. When the temperatures begin to change, you're going to see the real rain. We all know that. We all know that. You're looking at seeing rain days and nights. Not just a few hours, but days and nights. Sustained conveyor belt type storms. That's going to weaken both our coastlines. You know, right now, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, South Carolina, North Carolina, parts of Georgia. Do you know that, and naturally Florida, they're gonna have a surprise this year. A big surprise. Why? Because the water has been very damaging. It's eating away at the infrastructure, is causing plenty of problems. It really is. And those who escape the rains are going to have to deal with the fires. And those who escape the fires will have to deal with the rains. See, if you live in a dry place this summer, you're going to have to deal with the fires. It's going to be just like that. People are going to be scared to see the forecasts. They're going to be frightened to see the forecasts. And we're just talking about the weather. There will be other problems. Israel, for example. Israel, someone needs to get the people ready in Israel for massive floodings. Massive floods. You got to get them ready. And I'll tell you something, if Israel undergoes flooding, you know it's going to touch you too, right? To get us too. It's going to be a lot. They're not ready. The winters are going to be unthinkable. So as these weather conditions, they continue to grow. As they continue to grow, as they continue to spread, as they continue to be they're having issues forecasting. You know, the modeling is not quite working right. It's not. They're having to make adjustments to the physics of these models on many different levels to keep up with what's actually, they're doing a good job, the best job they can do. But we're coming to a point where other influences are starting to play into it. And if you think we're in a binary system, I do, I think we're in a binary system, then we have a whole new set of problems, a whole new set of physics that we're going to have to incorporate into the modeling to have even a clue as to what's happening. Because as we, for example, do you guys know we have reverse gravitational anomalies on the Earth right now as of 2022? That's when the first ones were spotted, 2022. We've had other reverse gravitational anomalies taking place on the Earth. And what that means is the influence of gravity is gone in those places. It's gone. Now, it is sporadic. They only stay for a couple of days and then they're gone. We're talking about physics not working in those places. It's not working in those places. My goodness, we're dealing with so much weird stuff. Over a certain part of the Arctic, this same influence took place and water levels rose in one central little area, one round central area. It looked like a teardrop almost, right? Water levels rose 50 feet. There was no tsunami anywhere because all the water was concentrated in that one spot and then it went back to normal. That's weird. Can you imagine being on a boat and all of a sudden you look out on the horizon and you see the water rise up 50 feet, but it's not going anywhere. And then it just goes back down. Now, what would you do? People would make up all sorts of stories, would they not? These types of things are happening. They're happening everywhere. But it's a time of opportunity. Have you guys been watching California in Truth? If you look at the history of California, of the storms and the rains, of the fires and everything else, right? A warning is being sent to California almost on a continuous basis. Not to go back into those areas affected by these things, that continue to be affected by these things, but to get out of those areas. A large trumpet is blowing over California right now. You can hear it. Who can hear it? Who can hear the trumpet, the warning over California? When you have areas that constantly endure things, you better believe it's a warning. When they seem cruel, you better believe it's a warning. Who can hear it? That means something will unfold in California. It's not going to be like anything anybody has ever gone through, and there will be a massive loss of life for those who continue to stay. You know, I was looking at the LA fires. Why did the LA fires consume the rich neighborhoods? It almost fell out my chair when somebody told me what they had nicknamed those rich neighborhoods. Baby Babylons. Baby Babylons. That's what they named them. Baby Babylons. Nobody can say the warnings are not going out. My Lord. Things are building quickly. It's a good time to pay attention. Now, you guys do know with these heavy events comes a heavy blessing, but I need to talk to you about something. I like reading the prophecies. I do. I like to go into the prophecies and really read them. They really anchor me. The prophecies are very consistent as far as the attitude of the Christians during the end times. The Christians will seem, right? There'll be a lot of people in the end who will begin to believe that somehow God has abandoned them. That the Lord will not answer their prayers. He's not really concerned about what happens here on this earth. Now, all of you who have had issues, many of you have felt this inside. You felt that you were not important enough for God to pay attention to. That's the same thing as saying that you've been abandoned. It's in the hearts of Christians. That was only to happen at the end times because they did not feel this way at any other time. Do you know that? They didn't. But they were promised to have that type of heart at the end times. Not everybody. But it within itself is an indication. When people really feel that the Lord has abandoned them, something else is happening too. That's why I like the book of Baruch, right? I like the book of Esdras. I like those books because they're prophecy heavy. They are. It also states that men will be in a stupor. Confusion. They'll be in confusion. Have you guys noticed a phenomenon taking place all throughout the earth? I keep track of it. It's when a person is speaking, and words they would never ever speak would come out of their mouths. Let me give you an example. There was a gentleman who was forecasting the weather. And he was trying to say, right, look at this trend line. So he said, look at the toast. Look at them. And he started naming off all these things, but he did not say trend line. He said toast. He said, I think he said tears at one point. Then he said toast again. There are other people who are speaking, and the wrong words are coming out. You guys at home, silly words come out when you're talking to somebody else. You may laugh about it. It's almost like you want to say one thing, but your brain has thought up one word, but your mouth is producing something that you did not want it to produce. You're feeling it too at home. It's happening to you too. What is that? That's actually an influence over the whole earth. has nothing to do with somebody's brain, has everything to do with the influences that are upon the earth. Your body is intimately tied to the earth. It operates the same as the earth. So if the earth goes through any type of changes caused by celestial changes, so will you. You go too. If the earth is under pressure from any external force, it's going to affect you too. You're prone to the very things that affect the earth because you're made out of the earth. Everything in the earth, every element that's in the earth is inside of you. Gold, silver, titanium, platinum, all that stuff is within you. Did you know that? So you truly are made out of the materials of the earth. You are. And when those elements are affected, well, so are you. When gold is affected, the way you process information changes. When silver is affected, the way you process information alters. When the magnetic shielding of the earth gets sporadic enough, you will feel major effects. Your thought processes are going to be in a confused-like state during the chaos point of this magnetic shielding when it goes through this chaotic, let's call it a session, or a chaotic region of its own cycle. You're going to feel that confusion. You're going to feel it. And don't confuse that with just, we age, right? We get older. Sometimes that happens, but your brain, it operates by impulses. Those impulses can easily be interrupted. The connectivity from neuron to neuron can be interrupted. And it happens. It happens. What's happening in the earth too? Mm-hmm. So it's affecting everything, but I'll tell you something, it's a blessing. Oh, it's a blessing. So let me give you the good part. Through all this stuff that's happening, right? All the storms, all the losses, there will be major losses. It's going to be a major loss of life, more than a few times too. That is unfortunate, but it will be. There's going to be a great loss of life. I mean, a great loss of life. And we have not gone through a great loss of life yet. I know we went through COVID-19, right? I know that tens of millions of people died, but that is not a great loss of life in comparison to what we're about to go through. Massive loss of life. When that time hits, people are going to change. Keep in mind another front is coming through. It's got to be up to the people whether that front does anything or not. Because I'll tell you right now, should people open their eyes, there would be no need for this. And why is this whole storm concentrated? Where it's concentrated. Why is it wiping out the place? It's a bullseye on a certain place on the map. A bullseye with this storm. Nobody drew it there. Nobody did. It's where the height of the clouds are concentrating. It's where the storm is moving towards a bullseye. And it corresponds to yesterday. I tell you this, mankind, when they get prideful, open their mouths, there's almost an instant penalty upon the whole place. Instant penalty. And they can't even see it. They just can't see it. Lord have mercy. But we have to get ready for ash. That's going to be an issue. I was thinking about that the other day. We have constant buildup in these deep earth calderas. They're feeding these other systems, right? For example, that island, Santini Island, right? That island, if you start looking at that island as far as volcanism and historical volcanism in that place, you begin to notice that something else is happening around that area that is probably normally missed, but it kind of alludes to a deeper caldera. And then below that caldera, sure enough, they went and found the first caldera that was right below that entire system. Well, nobody expected a secondary caldera to be underneath that. So you're looking at a very deep caldera, right? Now, all this came about back in the 1649, 1650, and that's when they Colombo, right? That system, about 5 miles. It's 5 miles northeast of Santorini. Yeah, northeast of Santorini. They looked in that area and they found this sediment. The sediment matches an ejection point. It's still in the Aegean Sea area, but they found that almost 400 years ago, there was a buildup of that lava. But then it all kind of, went all over the place, but it kept building up. The pressure was still there. It was still maintaining itself, and the rock layers proved that. So they began to look deeper, and they found that this area has produced a few 5 major eruptions in the last 70,000 years, estimated, right? But that it is so, let's say, it's like holding your arm over a water hose, right? It's a lot of pressure built up in that giant caldera below the system. There is deformation, slight deformation in certain areas, but the areas are miles apart. Now, check this out. If you have a deformation in one area in the ocean, and you have another deformation in another area in the ocean, but they're rising at the exact same time, at the exact same rate, then you find another that's rising up miles away from those two in the ocean, and it's rising at the exact same time, at the exact same rate as the other two. You're looking at a huge system, a driver, the same driver, the same source for those deformation points. That means magma is in that same source, and it's highly active, right? It's pushing. It's really pushing. I mean, it's pushing. When you find these matching deformations, and it's very difficult to find deformations in the ocean floor, by the way, it's very difficult to find unless you devote some real research and personnel to that area. It's very difficult. But when you do find them, nothing is supposed to rise at the same time that's miles away from the first source or the second source. They're not supposed to be synchronized like that, right? If they are, it means they're running off the same system. And it also means that secondary system is deep, very deep, and is feeding something else. So in this case, we're looking at a very deep caldera that is swelling up as highly active. I mean, highly active. So the issue is not, it's not a question of Santorini and the Aegean Sea in that area. Things might erupt. They will erupt. They most certainly will erupt. The issue is identifying the potential of that caldera to see what V category that's going to be in. Is it going to be another VI8 or what? What's it going to be? That's an important thing, because last time that little area affected the entire world. If you think Mount St. Helens, now Mount St. Helens was reasonable, but it affected the entire northern hemisphere. Imagine if a true monster went off. Forget about Yellowstone. Yellowstone has gotten so much attention. I'm pretty confident that's not the area people should look in. Pretty sure of that, right? That caldera is quite active. This building is under pressure, and it's starting to cause other places to swell. Mount St. Helens was bad enough. But imagine, I believe the estimate was 50 or 60 Mount St. Helens. Imagine that. Just imagine that. You're dealing with a change in everything we do. And that's just one of 3 systems that are waking up. And you guys, you know, I'm concerned about specific areas, but there's one area you never hear anybody talk about. Tamu Massif. No one talks about Tamu Massif. No one does. Do you know that's the largest beast on this earth? Tamamassive. You know, if it goes off, that's it for us. Tamamassive. Do you know that? And nobody talks about it. Though they spent, I believe it was $62 billion in the last year and a half researching it. And nobody told you that, did they? It's supposed to be, who spends $65+ billion for research on a system that is dead? It's a beast. It's a beast. Yellowstone is an embryo compared to Tamamassive. And at some point, that whole system is going to surprise people. Because I know at a certain point, hear me, I saw this first in a vision of sorts, a pyroclastic flow. In this vision, I was standing on the beach, and I thought it was, at first, I thought it was water coming. Then I said, oh, that's not water. What is that? That's dust. Then I said, that's not dust, because everything it touches is burning up. That was a pyroclastic flow coming from the ocean. It didn't come from the land. It came from the ocean. Who ever heard of a pyroclastic flow coming from the ocean? But then when you start researching, right, with these recent areas of activity like Santorini, the island of Santorini and some of the volcanoes around it, you find out that the last time one of those volcanoes blew, it ejected material up to way up in the heavens. And that material landed all over the earth. So that means it essentially blew rocks out of the ocean, through the water, out of the water, into the atmosphere. And that stuff landed all around the earth. We're talking about big pieces of rock. Because you hear some people irresponsibly, because they just simply don't know, they'll say, don't worry about an underwater volcano. Water increases the explosive factor of magma. It increases it. It will cause it to explode. That sudden cooling of temperatures in water, it will cause it to explode. And an injection of material, we will see. The last time we saw a true waterborne ocean-borne volcanic eruption, that was back in 2000. What was that? Was that 2014 or 15 or something like that? Somewhere around that area. We're about to see another. And it will only be the beginning, because as the influences, as the weather changes on this earth, topside, listen to me, you're seeing the changes take place above the surface of the earth. There are changes also taking place in the earth. The same changes you see taking place above the earth. They are a mirror of the changes that are happening inside the earth. Now, of course, the changes inside the earth are far more violent, but all of it's changing the surface and the interior portions of the earth. And it looks like we are that generation that will see many of these things come about. So if we start to see all these things happening, no other generation saw it. We are the generation that will see it come to fruition. You know what that means? That means it's going to be time to go. That's what it means. That means you're at the end. Now, somebody out there tell me I'm wrong. Don't most of you have this feeling deep within you that something extraordinarily life-altering, maybe not in the best of ways, but certainly life-altering is going to take place, and you're desperately trying to find out or would like to know what it is? You know something is coming. You don't know what it is, and you know it's going to be life-altering, and you know that nobody will be the same following it. You just don't know what it is. But you know that it is. Oh, there you are. There you are. Now Now, do you see if you can't see the chat room, everybody's saying type in a 1, which means yes, or they're typing yes itself. They're saying yes, without a doubt. Absolutely, yes, and a bunch of 1s. So, what are the chances of all you guys having that deep internal feeling? I mean, that's a deep internal feeling that won't die. For example, when you think you're going to relax and live your life like everybody else, it happens. You feel a gut check. Sometimes you don't even want it to be true, but you know you're going to waste your time. If you invest your time in the wrong thing, you know it's going to be purely in vain, because there's a life-altering change soon to take place. You don't know what it is, but you know that it is. That's a whole lot of people that have this inside them. You think it's coincidence? I do not. I don't think that's coincidence. I think we share in something, in that one point. I do. I really do. And I think we are that generation. We're going to see it. See, just talking about that subject, doesn't it make you somewhat nervous? But why would you be nervous about something that's absolutely, out there? You don't get nervous when somebody starts talking about E.T. You don't get nervous when somebody talks about a comet slamming into the earth, but you get nervous when somebody talks about that feeling and that something is going to transpire. And it's going to be life-altering. You just don't know what. You don't know what it is. You're part of that generation. All of us are. All of us are. You'd be surprised. Now, a lot of people try to ignore it. They got the same calling, you could say, but they're trying their best to ignore it. They're trying to entertain themselves to death. We know a change is coming. We know the urgency. We don't know the timing. And we don't know what that particular event is going to be, but we know there's no going back from it. We know it. We know it. This is one of those times. This is one of those times to get everything in order. See, because that's something else. Why is it that we have that feeling, but we also have this nagging direction in us? Hey, you better get things in order. And then we look around and say, well, I can't validate why I should, just go all in on that right now. But then you're not at ease with that statement. So it's constantly nagging at you. And then when something happens in the world, like a volcanic eruption or a large earthquake, why is it you, the very ones that say, oh, my Lord, I better get this stuff in order? You're the ones. You hear a trumpet. It's almost like you know it's a warning. You hear the trumpet. Now, I would say that all of us, every single last one of us, have not gone all in on what we could do. We've not. Though we're all getting the exact same warning. Come on, guys. Look at those above and below you in the chat room. Do you really think it's a coincidence? Do you think it's a one-off? No. We're so close to something. We don't know what it is. We know what's coming. We know it's life-altering. This is one of those times to consider your next steps carefully. That nothing be wasted. I do that every single day of my life. I really do. I want nothing to be wasted. Nothing. This is that season that you thought about in your youth. It is. Okay, everybody. All right, everybody. All is well so far. Boy, it's a lot of people in trouble. Well, it looks like this storm is moving. The tracks have changed, and it's being shifted. The whole thing is shifting. It's an incredible sight, actually. The whole storm is shifting. Can that get bigger? It's a little tiny. Somebody shrunk my map here. What are you going to shrink my map for? I'll do that. So we have this storm, which is being fueled from Texas. And it's starting to shift pretty fast. I mean, really fast now. So it's going to be a relief to those who have been inundated by water. I do not believe that parts of Virginia, West Virginia, and Kentucky have seen this water ever. I don't believe they have ever seen these water like this before. The sad part is everybody knows that in the wintertime is the minimal. That's the minimal time when you have rain and things like that, right? Well, all that's out the window. All of it is. And, boy, I just hope that people really learn. I'll tell you something, though. Let me share with you guys something. I've noticed in these storms, I was pulling up critical areas on a map of places that are below the line as far as safety goes in drainage. And I've noticed that when the sun goes down, right before the sun goes down, every single time the storms shift. They shift. As though during the daytime, these things come. And when the sun goes down, they always evacuate those critical areas that if it had continued, it would have been a loss of life, a great loss of life. Because this rain has been so heavy that roads are cracked. The roads are cracked, buckled. Roads are buckling in a lot of places. Many people are cut off. They're just cut off. The storm is moving. Some of the heavier parts of this storm are starting to shift. And it is something to see. It's just something to see. I personally hope that people learn from this. They should know that we have a different, we're in a different season altogether. We really are. But the summer has me concerned for folks because it's going to be a whole lot more rain. I mean, a lot. It's going to be a lot. It's going to weaken the soils. It's going to prep the land. It's almost like the ground is being tilled. Worse things to come. And I hope that people are attentive. It's going to rule the day. Get yourselves ready because these things are coming. And this is just the atmosphere. This is only the atmosphere. All this will be complicated with many different factors. I hope in our studies this, comes out. That you guys pick up what you didn't really pick up before in our studies. As far as the equator is concerned, that is a problem. We're going to have to talk about that problem, right? Because that intertropical convergence zone is it's a marked zone, and it is going to shift, meaning the Earth will have actually shifted. It's going to shift. All the water is going to maintain itself, but the Earth is going to be shifted by way of its axis. We will have a double wobble. You guys have heard me talk about that a long time ago. Double wobble. That will explain the moon rising multiple times in the evenings. If you saw the sun over the course of maybe time-lapse photography, go in a big circle during the nighttime, I think it'd make everybody pay attention. Of course, I'll tell you this. When it happens, it will be explained away. It will be. It'll be explained away. It's going to be explained away. Folks, my prayer is that people really get in tune with the Creator and what the Lord said. Not to go out, not like in the movies, you go out screaming stuff every single day. No. but to prepare yourselves inwardly that you know what's happening. Because if you know what's happening and you can stand up, you can be of help to everybody else around you. You're going to find that men do not have the answer. They don't have the answer. And that will be that's an unfortunate thing. But that must be. The earth itself, right? Especially in we're in what's called the mid-latitude cell. We are, which is above the Hadley cell. Well, we're kind of like right there at the Hadley cells at 30 degrees north. The Hadley cell and the mid-latitude cell, these are quadrants, not quadrants, but sections of the earth divided by these different cells. They're called cells. So right above the equator is the Hadley cell, right? It goes around the rim of the earth. Right above the Hadley cell is the mid-latitude cell. That is above the Hadley cell, so right above the 30-degree north mark. Right above there, of course, is the polar cell. Going lower, of course, you have the Hadley cell, which is right below the equator, the intertropical convergence zone. Then right below there, you have the mid-latitude cell. One of the biggest problems we're going to have is going to be the mid-latitude cell, the north and the south mid-latitude cells. This affects us. All of it's going to change. All of it. So you'll notice the temperatures at the equator are going to be in the Gulf of America or the Gulf of Mexico, whatever you want to call it. That's going to cause us some rough issues. Sea life is going to have to alter its course of action, its biological pursuits. All that will change. This is going to be a disruption event, of course, and it's going to rearrange some things. Now, it's unbelievable right now, it may seem, but it won't be when it happens. Unfortunately, when it does happen, people are not going to quite get it because experts are going to be paid to have people look away from it, right? They don't want to panic the people. So naturally, if you're looking for the president to make an announcement about this, you can forget that. He's not going to panic the entire populace. He's not going to do that. If he weren't afraid of panicking the populace, he would have said at least 10 major things already, and he has not. He can't. He really can't. Can't talk about those things yet. You're in the middle of a process of change that is incredibly large. But in this process, as these factors of atmosphere and the factors of the ocean and these factors of geology rearrange themselves, you better believe there are going to be some spiritual changes, big time. Oh boy, we were certainly spared. Well, everybody, I'm surveying the area, and we were certainly spared. My goodness. There are people stuck. They're stuck in their homes and can't get out. They have to have water rescue. There are people stuck in vehicles. There's a couple of incidents where people are stuck in campers that have been turned sideways. Listen, folks, if you're in a flood area and you have a cell phone, watch for the evacuation orders. Stay put. Please stay put. Don't start driving from one place to the other. Don't get nervous and do that. Okay, please don't do that. That doesn't help anything. That clogs up emergency vehicles, and they can't get the calls and things of that nature. Kentucky is having a rare rain event. Rare, very rare. This whole storm is moving north. It's arcing north. So then those who have been, and I believe that West Virginia in particular has been on mainstream news for a few hours now due to the emergencies that have been taking place. And so, folks, please stay put. Stay put. Please stay put. There are lots of home rescues taking place. Lots. My heart goes out to those who have losses. And some of the rivers they're not, we have instruments, of course, you guys know that, all over the place. Testing is not taking place in some of the rivers I was looking for water evacuation from to say, it's going away now. As the water continues to drain, the ground is saturated. It cannot absorb any more water. It can't absorb any more water. So any water that hits the surface is simply going to flow across the surface. We have a half-inch absorption, which means you only have a half an inch that the ground can absorb any type of moisture. Most of it is waterlogged. Most of it's set. All right, we're back. They can't help but to, mess with something. Anyway, though, you guys listen to that and remember something. All this will happen again. All this will happen again. This is not, a one-time deal. It's not what this is. This is going to happen again. I hope that all of you know that. Then it will happen again. See, because the truth is, it's been happening. It's been happening over and over and over and over and over again. It's been happening. It's getting worse. It's going into places that previously thought they couldn't be touched. In fact, here's what I wanted to tell you. 2 days ago, somebody bragged that the places now that are being hit by water, somebody bragged that those places will never have a problem with water. And then today comes. Not very good, huh? Not very good. They actually bragged on that. I believe they got lifted up in pride a bit too much. I believe this should also give everybody awareness that these conditions can reach and touch anybody. How you have people running to safe places. There is no safe place. Can you all see that now? There's no safe place. There's no safe place. The safest place you can be is in the bosom of the Father. I'll tell you right now, and I'm on the East Coast right now, and all around me is messed up. Somehow. Where I'm at right now has been spared a great degree of things. There's a cleanup job, yes. But we've been spared. I'm telling you, the place you want to be is where the Lord leads you. It's where He leads you. A time will come when people really have to move out of states. A time will come when you will see states, plural, evacuated. You will see states evacuated. All this is preparation. All of it is. All of it is. Can you imagine, guys, if a war came and America was vulnerable, or we, for the first time in history, in some international war, were actually hit by the enemy? Do you know how much panic would be in this world, in the USA? We don't have those problems here, right? We don't. And people do their best to make sure we're not going to have those problems. But the truth is, we don't know. As it stands right now, we're looking at a 22% increase in this weather phenomena. The days of stability, even though President Trump is going to talk to Putin, they're speaking about something. Even though that's in the midst, here's the issue. It's like the Trump presidency, right? Suppose President Trump does marvelous things. Nobody is agreeing with him now because change is difficult. It's very difficult to see where everything is headed. But just suppose everything works out. Suppose it does. He's not going to stay there forever. I want you guys to focus on everything that's being put in place. Everything, all policies, everything that's being put in place. Because if you're a believer in the Bible, in the Word of God like me, you know that revelation is going to take place. You know those elements in Revelation are going to usurp everything on this earth. That means every good thing being set up right now is going to potentially be utilized for a very dark purpose. Not necessarily by those who are in America. Do you see that? More things in America are based on autonomy now than ever before, which means you can operate a factory remotely. You can. And if you knew what they're about to employ, this weather is going to get so bad, you're going to hear about solutions to the weather. You're going to hear it. All right, well, it is, the storm lifted. That is arced over. A lot of places, let me check something here real quick, because I keep getting these, I see the radio calls going out. Lord, let the people stay home, stay put, stay put, stay put. Yes, this storm is in fact drifting northward. It is drifting northward. Anybody in those areas who just had relief, right? The back end of this storm is going to sweep through. Now it's going to take, that means at some point tonight we're going to have an hour of rain sweep through all the places that had previously had rain. Okay? For those who are just entering into the Torcon-plagued areas, please regard the National Weather Service alerts that you receive on your phones. All right? Don't get so nervous you just have to leave and go out there and do things. That's how people get hurt. Please don't do that. If you're in a flood-prone area that's under evacuations, I hope that you voluntarily leave your property. Leave it in the Lord's hands. We can't do anything about the storm directly anyway, right? So the Father has it. He's got it. He is ever present, and he can speak a command to that storm whenever he so pleases. But he knows what he's doing. We don't know what the purpose of the storm is. But I can tell you this. There are hunters of men and hunters of souls in the same areas undergoing these storms, as though they're being flushed out. That's what it seems like. They're being flushed out of these crevices. These are those who agree with the destruction of others. They're everywhere. We don't know why the Lord sent this storm, but I can tell you this, it's performing something. It's changing something. Hope you guys can remember that. God bless you guys. God bless and keep you always.